Hi everyone, this is Anna from Koala Soap, and what we're going to do is we had all these shavings from our last soap that we did with Sharon's buttercream frosting, and so I wanted to use them. They haven't sweated. I use a low sweat base, so it's nice. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the same colors, and my idea is I'm going to do a color up to about, okay, here we go, 0.5 inches. I'm going to do like a pink or a purple, and then put the embeds in clear, and then do the opposite color that I didn't do here up here. So how I did that, and my measurements are going to be off, so fair warning now. But what I did was I took all those shavings and I put them in here, flattened it out, and then I measured it, which I don't know, I have my measuring tape, and I kind of figured out how much I had, and then I went ahead and said, okay, so I'm going to have this much space to work with as far as another color. So that's how we're going to do it. That is the plan anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and get our just one shea butter melted down, and I guess we'll pick a color, we'll pour it in, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so we have it melted down. This will be our first color, layer 1. Okay, and it looks like it's 175. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and put our mica in, wait for it to cool down a little bit. We're going to be using Energy. We can only use our fragrance in both of these opaques. In our clear, we can't use a fragrance. We can't use colorant, anything, because we want to keep it as clear as possible because we want these embeds to pop. So we'll go ahead and let this cool down just a little bit, but I'm going to go ahead and put in, I guess we'll start with our pink, and I'm going to try and match it the way I matched it with this, as best I can anyway. So here we go. Okay, so we seem to have measured that one just right. So this was about 4 ounces. I believe this one was about 4.5 ounces. And this one I went a little bit crazy and I made it 5 ounces. I don't think I'm going to need nearly that much. I don't know because of the embeds. So what we're going to do is we're going to let this dry out just a little bit. Then we will go to our crystal clear melt and pour. and then we'll work with our next layer. Okay, so now we have a pretty good skin. I'll make some hatch marks now. I can kind of gauge how it's pretty hard. I'm going to go ahead and melt this melt and pour down, and then we will add it to these shreds. We'll be back. Okay, so I have it melted down. There's a few clumps in there. I don't know if you can see them or not. The issue with clear, I'm using Crafter's Choice Crystal Clear Melt and Pour, and if I get it too hot, what will happen is it loses some of its clearness, I think. So we're at 163 right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try to continue to stir this and get the clumps out as best I can before we pour, and cool it down that way instead of continually heating it. This base I like better than the Stevenson's, only because I can get it a lower temperature before I get a skin. Meaning the Stevenson's, it seems to be hotter when it starts to develop a skin, and like I'm gonna say maybe in the 140s or higher, at least for me in here, this location. And I've noticed that the Crafter's Choice Clear Melt and Pour, I can sometimes get it down into the teens, like maybe 119, maybe 120, 125. So there's less chance of it melting these. And so I've noticed that when I'm doing clear soaps with flowers or something in it, or some kind of embeds that I want them to pop out, I've just kind of found that this particular melt and pour is the best for me. Now, if I'm doing a soap where I'm not trying to do see-throughs, I just want vibrant colors, well then I'll use any other glycerin melt and pour, just not the crystal clear. I save that for these kind of designs. So I think I've melted, I think I've gotten all the clumps out, it feels like it, but I'm going to continue stirring. We're at 148. So what I'm going to do is I will come back and see how low we can get this to go before it starts to develop a skin. Okay, we are now at 122. So what we're going to do is we've already made our hatch marks, but I'm just funny this way. I like to make more just to make sure. And a little shaving there. And we're going to go ahead and squirt it with alcohol. We're going to squirt these embeds with alcohol. You don't want to make embeds and put them right into soap, because sometimes the middle inside of them will still be warm. These have been sitting out for about 24 hours. You just want to make sure your embeds are cool, because even though they may feel cool on the outside, they may be warmer on the inside. And then when you mix it with whatever you're going to put it in, sometimes it'll make it melt. I've had that happen before. Okay, so here we go. We're going to pour a little bit here. And I want this to completely cover the embeds I'm putting in, even though I'm making a mess. So what I'm going to, and know that as soon as you put these embeds into this clear melt and pour, it is going to cool it down fast. So I want it to be a layer that is completely covered. No air bubbles if possible. And I'm going to have obviously some left over, but that's okay. Now, if you find that you didn't make enough clear melt and pour, that's fine. You can pour on top of this. That's okay. And my marking, I didn't really make it dark enough. It's right there. So I could actually put in a little bit more here. So we're going to add a little bit more alcohol. I just want to make sure that it's flat though. So that's the most important thing for me. Okay, so this is gone ahead and it's set. We're going to go ahead and melt our shea butter melt and pour base. We're going to add a little bit more fragrance. We'll just do a half of a dropper full here. And then we're also going to be adding in violet petals. So let's go ahead and get this warmed up and get our mica mixed in. Okay, so I think I feel a lump in there. I'm not sure, so I'm trying to see if I feel it, but I'm just going to continue to stir, because if you're not sure, just continue to stir and you'll stir it out. So 161.8. So instead of, I think it's gone. I thought I felt a lump, but what we'll do in the meantime is we're going to go ahead and we'll mix our mica, because at this time it's just a little bit too warm to put our scent in. But this will pull it down. Okay, I think we're ready to pour. We're at 130. So one of the things that I do, and what we're trying to do is I want that layer to be as flat as possible. So what I'm going to do before I pour is I'm just going to try to push down anything that's sticking out right now. I mean, I know it's not perfect, but if there's like a little, I just kind of want it to look as flat as possible. Now, I know that's not going to happen with these kind of embeds. It's not like I could just set them down and pour on top of them. They're shreds and they're different directions, but if I can feel it, I'm actually just trying to, if I have like one that's just kind of poking out, I'm just trying to push it down a little bit more. And I did already make the hash marks in there. So we're going to go ahead. I already have a skin going on, and it was at 130. Actually, maybe I'll make sure, because 130, 1.9. I think what I'll do is I'm going to wait for it to hit 130, just because I don't want it to melt through that. The clear melt and pour is just really finicky that way. So I'll be right back. Okay, we are now at 128. So we will respray with some alcohol. I think we'll use a spatula just to make sure. And what we're going to try and do is just kind of pour so it just doesn't break through here. I'm really getting a skin on this. Okay, so I'm going to squirt that with alcohol. And I think what I'm going to do, I don't know if I can do it yet. Let me see where we're at here. 112. I think what I'll do is I'm gonna see if I can't get that to go down maybe a little bit lower. And it looks like I have some skin here. Skin at this point probably wouldn't be so great because you'll see it in the design. So if you can't dig it out, push it in so that you can try to maintain this to be as flat as possible. I have seen some people say, why is it, especially on those little pink rectangular molds that we use, why is it that I get a weird design up top, like a little wave or something that's just not flat, even though I haven't touched it, I haven't moved it? Well, the number one reason it does do that is because you probably accidentally moved it, or it got jilted and it just started setting that way. But what I've also found is in a thicker mold like this versus that pink mold that I use for other various products, it's very thin. What happens is when things get cold or cool down, they start to come in together, right? So they start to pull in, and as they pull in, they can pull the edges in a little bit, and that's when you can see your little ripple. If it's warm or hot, then you'll notice that it'll stay out in that pink mold, but until it cools. Once it starts to cool, it's possible that it'll start to constrict in and pull the edges together, and you might actually see that. That might be what's happening there. I have seen it happen where you don't touch that pink mold at all and you still get a design. It's like a wavy. So I would recommend, it's kind of hard with those little 6 cavity molds because they're so thin for that not to happen unless you're super careful. You keep it super flat, but sometimes you just can't, it just happens. In a mold that's as thick as this one, much harder for it to happen because this is so thick, it's going to be really hard for, there's just no way the soap's strong enough to pull in the edges to make it ripple like that. Now, if I bump it, obviously, or move it somewhere while it's at a lower temperature, that could happen. So I just wanted, I've seen this question come up a lot, and I get it a lot on my website, which please, by the way, visit my website, KoalaSoap.com. I'm building it, and I'm just, I'd love to get your ideas on it. So we're going to go ahead, let's see what we're at here. So 115, let me see what we'll come here on the edge here. All right, a little bit of a skim. So there were a couple things. I was thinking about, I don't know if it'll work though, kind of pushing these just kind of on the top. This is the last of the embeds. I don't know if they're going to stick because there's already a little bit of a film there, but I kind of thought, I just didn't want it to go down into the... So what you can do here, because I don't know that that's really going to stick, is we can get a little bit of clear melt and pour, which I have a little bit left in here, and then I'm going to pour it very lightly on top, and that's going to go ahead and seal that design in. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use some of our bio glitter. Only use bio glitter in your soaps, please. And so what you do is you don't really want to touch any glitter with your fingers because the oil's on your hand. It can actually just start to make the glitter dull down. So we'll have a little bit of glitter there too. I've been wanting to use the glitter, you guys, for a while. You know that. The last few soaps I've wanted to. And we're not going to do a lot. And I used to use a sifter. I've used the spray thing. I just kind of find that putting it in your fingers and just, you can kind of control where it's going. It's not bad. So what I'm going to do next, I'll do it off camera while we're waiting for this to set, is I have a little bit of clear melt and pour here, and I have just enough to just kind of drizzle on top. It'll hide it, you won't see it, but it will be enough to keep these little embeds in it and make the glitter stay on too a little bit better. So we'll be back for the cut. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and unmold. So we're just going to have the sides and play music. Okay, so that was our cut, and I hope you liked it. And we'll go ahead and put it on the website, and I hope you guys had a good time with this video. We will see you in a couple days. Have a great weekend.